Welcome back to the Found Frequency Podcast, your space for that alignment, expansion, and of course, unstoppable energy. I am your host, Fallon, and I'm so excited to have you here. Now, today's episode is coming straight from this weekend. That very aggressively reminded me that the plan is not actually the portal, okay? It's more about this beautiful act of surrender. And I mean this in the least polished, crazy ass hailstorm, losing a dog, having no service, losing the keys for a brief second, and having this, awesome experience of 6 or 7 of us fitting in one van to cook a meal together. This weekend, I thought I was saying yes to more, right? The theme obviously is about more life, more of everything in life. So that's more adventure, more nature, more presence, more of what I've been asking for. And obviously I'm the first person to dive into everything that I'm teaching, right? And I feel like the universe was like, okay, Fallon, here we go, and it kind of showed me that what more, when you're asking for more in your life, what it actually requires, okay? It's not just the things that you're thinking. It's also more flexibility, right? Also more trust, also more willingness to allow things to be interrupted, right? More capacity for you to be in the unknown. More of an ability to laugh at yourself, when a perfectly good plan you made gets completely crushed, and when I'm reflecting back, it was perfect. It was such an incredible weekend, The whole thing was pretty spontaneous. We had been talking about going on this adventure, and there's this beautiful area about an hour and a half from us in Washington in Yakima Nation, I believe. And it's only open a few months out of the year. And we got word that it was actually going to shut down this weekend. We've had crazy, wildfires and whatnot. So we were like, well, we got to get up there, right? We only have a few more days, and this opportunity came up. So it was like, we've got to do this. We've got to go. And because I've been practicing what I preach, as always, I keep actually saying more, yes to more things, right? It's more aliveness requires me to, participate in life more following the nudge, less of making everything make sense before I actually move. So we go, right? And I thought this is going to be such an incredible weekend. Now, in saying this, we've had a pretty busy week. I mean, it was a crazy weekend, which I'm going to get into in this episode, but I'm leaving in 2 days to Kauai as well. So I was like, okay, can I allow myself even more adventure when I'm about to go on this crazy trip? So I was thinking, more, nature, more of off the beaten path, off time, a little reset for myself. I'm bringing my journal, I'm bringing my Kindle, wholesome, peaceful, kind of like a reflection weekend, and it's it did not go like that at all. We end up on this, hike that we weren't even planning to go on. We're with a group of people, so we're kind of just going with the flow, right? And we end up on this gorgeous forest hike. And at one point on this hike, during the hike too, so I'm expecting it might be a little bit hot up there. There's a chance of wildfires. We've got to be cautious of that. There's thunder, right? There's thundering as we're in this deep forest. We're going on this hike, and all of a sudden we realize, so we're with a pack of different people with their dogs, right? And we realize that Captain has gone missing. And obviously there was this initial freak out. Cody ran off. Cody's my partner. If you was the first time listening to me, I mention him quite often. He runs off to go find Captain. Now, Captain, he's a pretty good boy. He kind of sticks by you for the most part. But, sometimes he gets in his own little bubble, chases a squirrel, and then finds himself going back on the path. He's actually done this multiple times. Now that I think about it, he's actually hopped into a stranger's car before as well. But we have an air tag on him. But anyways, point of the story is there's no service out in the woods, and poor guy, who knows if he's scared of the thunder. So we do end up finding him, but there was definitely this feeling of when you lose something, right? The motivation, I didn't think I could run that fast until I could, right? So it's kind of can I be open to the more thing, right? And then on our way back of this trip, so we already got the heartbeat kind of going because we just found Captain. Then we had to go find the people again. Again, no service through this jungle of a forest hike. And then going back, you hear the thunder getting louder, and we're like, well, shit, like the camp, one of the friends that was with us needed to drive back, and it was getting dark, and it was like, is his car actually going to make it out? So we start running to try to miss this rain, which was not in fact rain, because then I get pelted in the head with fucking hail, okay? So half of us get split up, half of us are under a tree, not myself, and me, I keep Captain right next to me, and I just start sprinting with some other friends back to this campground where it's like literally downpouring, but downpouring hail. It was like a mix of hail pellets getting pelted at you and then rain as well. Only to realize, I'm freezing, it's going dark, that I don't actually have the keys. My partner, Cody, who is standing under a tree, who knows how far away, hiding from the hail, which I did not know that was the plan, has the keys. So needless to say, it was a cold, half an hour till he made it back. But then we ended up all trying to keep warm, nice and soggy, packed into our van, and cooked a beautiful meal, which was incredible. And then the next morning, waking up to this gorgeous, peaceful lake that we stayed at, and we end up going on this incredible hike with a bunch of wildflowers and a bunch of waterfalls. It was very calm. It was kind of like the previous day didn't even happen. I feel like I've almost lived like 5 days in one weekend. And I came home last night and I was like, wow, okay, like I feel pretty present. I definitely feel a lot clearer, and that's when I was realizing that like that's more. It's like it's literally exactly what I've been asking for, not just more on the picturesque version of it, not just more when everything gets bigger and shinier and more photogenic. It's like more life. I've been asking for more depth, right? More intensity, more beauty, more uncertainty, more laughter, more presence, all of it. More things I couldn't control because, hey, we're not really in control. And I feel like this is the part of what like expansion actually is. Expansion doesn't always look expansive, right? I think sometimes we have this image of expansion that looks really polished in our minds. It's like the business growth if you're running a business, or the check landing in the mail, or some beautiful relationship appearing, or a dream trip, or a sold out room, or the perfect morning routine, right? And then there's this moment where you're standing on the edge of the ocean and you're wearing linen and the lighting is perfect, right? Like it's exquisite. I feel like a lot of people, envision expansion that way. And it definitely can look like that, absolutely. But sometimes expansion looks like being soaking wet, slightly feral, running through a hailstorm and then not having any keys to actually get warm in the car. Sometimes it looks like everything going completely differently than you imagined. And discovering that, hey, you know what? You're actually okay. You're just fine. Sometimes it looks like the plan falling completely apart and realizing you don't have to fall apart with that, right? That's a very different type of capacity. And I think it's one that we don't talk about enough, If you want more in your life, right? You're asking life to become bigger, and a bigger life doesn't mean a more predictable life. It means more opportunities and invitations and responsibility and visibility and love and money and adventure and more people and movement and also more unexpected shit, And the question really becomes, can you meet it? Not can you control it, but can you meet what's coming for you? I feel like alignment itself isn't always convenient. This is like something else I feel like this weekend really showed me. This weekend had so many bajillions of lessons, but for this one podcast episode, I'll try to keep it to a few. But alignment not always being convenient, right? Sometimes we think if something's aligned, right? If something's perfectly aligned for us, it's going to fit beautifully inside our plan, right? The direction that we're going. Everything's going to click into place. It's going to feel pretty seamless. You're going to have plenty of bandwidth for it. You're going to feel totally certain about it. But some of the most aligned decisions of my life have actually been wildly inconvenient. They've completely interrupted the plan. They've required me to change direction. They've asked me to trust something before I could explain it. And that's exactly what I feel like happened this weekend. I knew that. My body knew that. It was one of those very clear yeses, like, yeah, I wanted to go on this adventure. But at the same time, I also had this business plan in my head. While all of this was happening, right? I have been promoting more, which is an incredible experience that I'm hosting starting August 31st. If you're not in there, DM me on Instagram at fallonmichaela.co more, because it's going to be fucking amazing. But it is that week, and I had a plan. It was opening week for that I was going to go on this adventure in the woods, right? I was going to be present. I was going to enjoy nature. But at the same time, I was going to occasionally pop online and remind everyone that the early bird special, the early bird pricing of only $22 was going to end on Sunday, okay? It was going to have this little countdown. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say. I like to do things in the present moment, but I was still going to be there. I was going to be present online, right? A little reminder, a little last chance for people who know they want to jump in and they just, they've been busy or whatever their excuse is, right? I was trying to be a very responsible, let's say, entrepreneur. Except we get out to these woods in this hailstorm and there's absolutely no service. Okay, like zilch, like none ya. And I had to look at my plan, my business plan, and be like, okay, well, that's not happening. There is no countdown. There is no reminder. There's no perfectly timed urgency. I didn't prep things because I was so busy on Friday as well. There was nothing polished before I went into the forest. It was just like life was happening. And for a second, I will admit, I had a little bit of a wobble, right? I had this brain business wobble where I was like, ugh, shit. I should be selling. I am not doing what I should be doing right now. People are missing the countdown. Not everybody knows about this. This was kind of supposed to unfold a bit differently. But then I caught it, okay? I remember having this thought and I was like, wait a second. Who made the rule that if I miss this deadline of Sunday, I miss the opportunity? Who actually decided that? Who made that rule up, right? And then it occurred to me that I made that rule up for myself, right? I made the rule, which means I also can unmake that rule, or I can make a new rule, It's like really about learning the perspective in which you're seeing the world. It's like, you can miss the plan without missing the opportunity is where I want to kind of switch people's brains right now, and that really became the lesson for me, right? How often do we do this in our own lives? Do we make a plan? The plan changes, and instead of changing the plan, right, we abandon our desire. We abandon what we were going after. It's like, I missed the window, shame, Or it's like, I should have done that 6 months ago, can't do it now. It's that whole like, I didn't start in January, so I can't start in August, It's this like, I should have had the conversation, so never having the conversation, it's too late now, or, I lost momentum. But can't you just pick it back up again? I didn't do it right the first time, so shouldn't try a second time, And then we act like the original plan was some kind of divine law or something. It wasn't. It was just a plan, right? That's it. That's all there was to it. And this is where I think we accidentally make our own reality way more rigid than it needs to be, right? It's like, if it didn't happen this way, then it can't happen at all. Or if it didn't move then it's never going to move, If I miss that opportunity, there's never going to be another opportunity, which is just such a limited way of thinking, If I didn't execute this perfectly, I've ruined it. Like, absolutely not true. What if you didn't miss the plan? What if the opportunity is still very much ready for you? If the door is still open, the path can change, the timing can change, the way you get there can change. The rule was never real. It was a rule that you put on yourself. It was a limitation that you put on yourself, right? So I feel like one of the reasons, like the first live experience inside more is literally called Reality Has No Rules, because I really want to show you how much is possible. So not just open your perspective, but to realize that the limitations sometimes are ones that we're putting on ourselves, right? And we don't even know where the fuck they came from. We didn't consciously choose them. Rules about the timing of something, the rules about your own age, right? Rules about money and relationships and what's realistic and what success is supposed to look like, or how long something should take you, about how someone like us does things, right? I feel like especially in the online space, people compare themselves so much to other people when like their first step might be this person's like 112th step. You've got to recognize that, and recognize when you're putting a false rule on yourself and deciding like, do I still want to live by that rule that I fucking made up, right? So it's like the interruption for me this weekend wasn't actually the problem. This weekend could have been framed as a failure. It could have been framed as a complete interruption, nothing going according to plan. I wasn't able to be online and do whatever I do. My schedule wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Everything that I thought was going to get done did not get done. But what if, the interruption was the medicine? What if the very thing that I thought was pulling me away from my work was the work? This weekend taught me more deeply on a different level than a perfectly executed weekend launch plan, right? Reality has no rules. The arbitrary deadline that I created did not need to become a prison, so I didn't make it one, right? I have nothing to carry, right? I could put down this guilt that I was supposed to be somewhere else doing something else, right? That's guilt I put on myself, and then I can just take off and keep going, okay? And make a new decision and move. Do the next thing. I was literally living the curriculum of what I'm about to teach you. And all I could think was like, the plan is not the portal. The plan is not the portal. The surrender is. Not surrender in the sense of doing nothing. This is active surrender. It's not collapsing. It's not giving your power away by any means. It's as in like, I am no longer insisting that life must unfold exactly the way that I had imagined in order for me to trust it. It's a very different type of surrender. I feel like there's this almost like performance of control that people try to do, We're all exhausted because we're constantly performing, right? Trying to optimize everything. The morning that we have, our morning routine, the business and the way in which we run our business, and the holiday or the relationship that we're in or the healing that we're doing. It's like, was I present enough? Well, that automatically takes you out of being present. Did I meditate long enough? Well, then you're in your head, you're not meditating, you're not being mindless, right? Did I make the most out of this weekend? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But by questioning it, you're taking yourself out of the moment, right? It's like, God damn, like, did I capture the content? Did I leverage the experience enough? Should I turn this into something? Look, I love creating and storytelling. I feel like I'm really falling into my storytelling era. And I'm sitting here, obviously, like I'm making a podcast about my weekend right now, right? But there's a huge difference between living your life and extracting meaning from it later and living your life only because you think it needs to become something useful. Does that make sense? Like, the life itself is the point. The hike didn't need to become content. The waterfall didn't need to become some gorgeous metaphor. The dinner inside the van didn't need to be a lesson, right? Captain Missing did not need to happen. But the moment gets to be the moment, and then maybe later you look back and you realize, hey, it changed you. Maybe later you find the story, but there has to be life first, right? Otherwise, we're just constantly standing outside of our own experience. It's about being in the experiencing, in the experience, and then not trying to just optimize what's happening. If I'm making sense here. It's like more life means more of the unknown. Is what I'm getting at, okay? There's a deeper meaning here. Learning about more, okay? I think a lot more people would think that more is just about beautiful experiences and more money, which those things are included, yes. Adventure, yes. Freedom, yes. Opportunities, yes. Obviously, who doesn't want all of that? But more is also asking us, like, can you tolerate more unknown? Can you hold more uncertainty without immediately trying to control it? Can you receive the interruption without making it mean something has gone wrong? Can you stay present when the plan disappears? Can you change direction without making yourself wrong about it? Can you let an aligned yes rearrange your entire calendar? Can you trust the new route when the original route closes? Can you laugh about it? Can you improvise? Can you be alive enough to respond what is actually happening instead of constantly fighting for what was supposed to happen? Because that too, that is capacity, right? And more isn't about becoming the woman who can just like hold more money, like I said, or clients or visibility or the one thing that's on your mind right now. It's becoming the woman who can hold more life in every sense of it. The beautiful parts, but the messy parts as well. The things you asked for and the things you did not see coming. The moment everything works out and the moment everything does not, right? You don't need every experience to prove you're safe. You're trusting yourself enough to meet every experience that comes at you, right? I feel like the plan can sometimes keep us stuck. And that's another, lesson that I had, where it gets even juicier if we can make this weekend as juicy as possible. Sometimes I feel like the plan isn't helping you move. Sometimes the plan can be the thing you're hiding behind. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like you keep refining the plan because movement would actually require some uncertainty. Or you keep waiting for clarity because clarity feels safer than courage. Keep reorganizing the timeline because the plan gives you this illusion that you can eliminate risk, but you can't, and that's the cosmic joke. We're not actually in control of life. We can influence it and we can choose and we can move and we can co-create, yes. But control it? The weather changes, right? People change, markets change, bodies change, opportunities appear, doors close. Life keeps lifing. And if your sense of safety depends on nothing ever interrupting your plan, your life's gonna feel terrifying. But when the safety starts becoming, I trust myself to meet whatever comes my way, that's a different game. Now, the unknown isn't automatically an enemy for you. The detour isn't automatically failure for you. The missed timeline isn't automatically proof that you fucked it all up. You get to move. It's like, where have we decided? Where have we decided that it's too late? I guarantee there is somewhere in your life that you've made up this rule, that I've missed it. Like maybe it's this book that you said you were going to start last year and you haven't written page 1, right? Or this conversation that you need to have, but it is so uncomfortable in your head. Or this business idea that's in your notes app or in your journal, or the trip, or dating again after a really hard relationship, or leaving or starting, or something to do with your health, the price, the thing you promised yourself you'd do and then you didn't do it, I feel like enough time has passed where it's like starting to feel like icky inside because you want the things. You don't do it, right? Somewhere along the way, you decided there was a correct timeline for this. And because you didn't follow it, you forfeited that desire for it, right? But it's like, who actually made that rule? Seriously, who made it? Maybe you're the one, maybe it is literally one decision away from reopening something that you've declared was closed, that you didn't miss the opportunity, you didn't miss the original plan. And maybe they're not the same thing. I want you to understand that the plan is not the portal. This is what I came home knowing. Maybe not having the language for yet, but knowing. The plan is fantastic. It's useful, absolutely. Make a plan, have a strategy. I always say energy first, but yeah, have a plan, have a strategy, put that date in that calendar, run it, right? Book the flight, set the intention, but don't worship the plan, right? Don't make the map more important than the destination you're going, or become so loyal to a timeline that you abandon the desire when life asks you to take another route, or becoming so obsessed with controlling how something's gonna happen that you miss what's actually unfolding for you, right? Because sometimes the plan gets you to the portal and sometimes the plan falls apart. This is how life is. And the falling apart is the portal. It's like the moment where you have to decide, can I trust myself here? Can I let this change? Can I stop making this interruption mean I'm completely off course? Can I loosen my grip without abandoning the vision? Can I move with life instead of constantly demanding that life moves with me? right? That's a surrender. That's active surrender. I think surrender is very misunderstood. And it's a very misunderstood, almost like a form of power that you have within yourself, because it isn't actually passive. It's not a weak thing. It's incredibly fucking brave to remain open when you don't know exactly what's coming next. That is more. And that's what we're exploring inside more. It's not how to control your life into becoming bigger. It's not how to become the woman who, it is how to become the woman who can actually meet more in her life. But that is everything, like more possibility, more desire, more receiving, more movement, more adaptability, more trust, more opportunities that don't actually arrive according to the timeline that you created 6 months ago in your head. You know, it's more willingness to say, okay, I thought it was going to go this way, but you know what? We're going to go this way. You know, if you want a bigger life, which I'm assuming if you're listening to this, a part of you does, you cannot require it to be completely predictable for you. It's like if you want extraordinary, you cannot keep demanding something that's familiar. You know, if you want more, you have to become available for parts of you could have planned. And that's really what I feel like this weekend reminded me, right? It was this crazy hike, missing captain, a hailstorm, not having car keys. You know, so many of us piled in one van. There was no service to miss this deadline that I gave myself for work, right? But then I got to go play in the waterfalls, and there was presence and laughter and a beautiful reminder that none of it had to go according to plan. You know, for it to be exactly what I needed and nourished me, right? So if there's something that you've decided that you've missed, something you've decided that's too late, something that you think you've completely messed up because you didn't execute the plan perfectly, maybe this is your reminder. The plan was never the portal. The surrender is. The willingness to meet what is here is. The willingness to make a new rule. The willingness to move anyways. You know, maybe the question isn't like, how do I get my original plan back? But what is life asking me to become available for right now? You know, if you already know you're ready for more, not more information, but more life, more is open. It is open. We start August 31st. It is 14 days live with me. We have a magical, wealthy wavelength Telegram portal happening alongside of 3 live Zoom lessons. Not even lessons, energetic portals is what I like to call them. And during these next few days, it is only $22. And you also get the bonus of Unrealistic on Purpose, which is a program I did, I don't even know when I did that, back in May. You know, and after that, the price will double because this portal I'm pouring all of myself into it and so much energy and so many lessons and everything I've learned over the years. And I feel like it's just going to be super, super powerful. If you are here to consume something, you know, interesting, but not make change, I really don't want you in that room. I am ready for people who are ready for change, you know? If you're ready to move and question the rules that you've been limiting yourself by and really drop what you're carrying emotionally, energetically, right? And give the life that's calling your name like somewhere to go. Just DM me more on Instagram at fallonmichaela.co. I will send you all of the information. You can make a decision if it's the right move for you, and I will welcome you into more. I would love to have you. I am going to love and leave you all there, and I will catch you after Hawaii. So that will be, the end of next week. Okay, bye.